This is the Try Swim Coach podcast, where the most difficult leg of the triathlon becomes your friend, leaving your struggles and your competition behind you. TrySwimCoach.com, helping you to laugh at the water.
All right, welcome to Try Swim Coach. This is Kevin, and this is episode number 87. And I have Chris Haig, assistant coach with Try Swim Coach, on the other line. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Not bad. Happy 2015.
Yeah. Happy New Year. Yeah, it's been probably a couple months since we've done a podcast, but there's a lot going on. And to update, just a couple updates for Try Swim Coach, we have in the new year, we have a new website. So if you haven't been on the site for a while, we've completely changed the design and it looks much better.
Yeah.
I was really tired of the site for a while and it just was taking a long time to figure out what exactly to do with it. So it took us probably about a year to really get it all straightened out, but it looks a lot better. So if you go to tryswimcoach.com, it used to be a long scrolling sales letter, and now it is a very nice looking page with a lot of information. So it's got some blog posts on it. It's got our 3 tips video, and it's got a place that you can opt in to the newsletter. So yeah, check that out. And how about you, Chris? What's been new? What's been going on?
Not much. Just, getting back into training for 2015, trying to work off the holiday pounds and get kind of back into the groove of things.
I'm sure you're huge. You
of course, yes.
What, 20 pounds of fat, maybe?
Yep. The eggnog went straight to my hips, and it's going to be a long way to get back to it. But I'm actually surprised. I always see people post around this time of year, and it happens every year, tweets and Facebook posts like first time back in the pool in months. And I just think to myself, like, why are you doing that to yourself? If you're a college swimmer or like if you have college experience, like you hop into the water and it feels like you never left, that's fine. But if you're like the 95% of us who didn't grow up swimming, and if you take 3 minutes off from the pool, that just sets you back years, not months, just years. And it's amazing how quickly you lose your swim fitness. So I'm always amazed at how many people say, I haven't been to, swim practice in months. I'm like, why would you do that for yourself? You wouldn't do that for your cycling. You wouldn't do that for, running. You wouldn't do that for any other thing. But why do you do that to yourself in swimming? Yeah,
it's psychological. I think it's the dark, the darkness and the coldness. And it's just kind of like, I just want to stay home and be warm instead of being
exactly.
wet. But yeah, you're right. Losing the feel for the water is easy to do. And everyone's a little bit different with that. I found that back in my swimming days, if I took 3 days off, I'd start to lose the feel for the water. Mm-hmm. And that feel is so important. And some people can take, like I knew guys that could take a month off and they'd still feel pretty good, but it's kind of rare. So yeah, I would say don't miss too much swimming because that's important. But I was going to mention the lava pants. So did you get a chance to try the lava pants?
Yes, they are it's a completely different feeling wearing them in the pool.
Yeah.
And I wrote a couple blog posts on how to correct sinking legs. And I mentioned, you don't want to rely too much on the pool boy. And then I just tried these lava pants and they act like a pool boy.
Yeah.
But they changed my body mechanics, and I did a test with them on and I did a test with them off, and they took I'm swimming in a 25-yard pool. They took for my 100 yards about 5 seconds off my easy pace and then about 10 seconds off my hard pace, which is significant. I went from like a 120 per 100 yard for, my moderate intensity to a 110, which is,
wow.
Blew my mind. So I'm not going to use them every single practice because I feel like that would be cheating myself, but I'm going to, include them for, getting the feel for like swimming in a wetsuit, which I feel, perfect for.
Yeah.
A great invention, I will say.
That's good. Yeah, that's good to hear because I had met Glenn, the owner of Xterra, I guess that was like 6 weeks ago or something. And that was the thing one of the things we talked about was the lava pants. And so many people are reporting so many great things. And so we worked out a discount for Try Swim Coach people. So if you use the code, if you want to pick up a pair, I think they're like $149. But if you use our code, you can get them for $50 off. It's just Try Swim Coach.
I mean, considering like a good pair of like jammers costs running upwards between $30 and $50, spending an extra $50 for a pair of lava pants, that's not too bad. Like even like thinking beyond practice, because I originally like, thought of them as, I would only wear them in practice. But if the water's too warm in like a race, I think it would be a perfect complement to being so you don't overheat, or if they don't allow wetsuits. There's nothing against the rules that say you can't wear lava pants. So I think even expanding beyond practice, I think they'd be great for races where the water's too warm.
Yeah, that's great idea. Yeah, I'm sure that these are going to really take off, and you're going to see everybody getting them pretty soon. And I definitely am sold on. I haven't tried them yet, but I'm sold on the concept. So
especially with people who just can't stand wetsuits because they find their shoulders are too constrained. Like it constrains their shoulders too much. I think it would be perfect for them.
Yeah, totally. And by the way, to mention, you were talking about warm water and stuff. I was down in Panama City earlier this month, and in Panama, in general, like it's not a very wealthy country. It's there's a ton of poverty there. Panama City is a pretty modern city because of the canal, and there's a lot of money going in there. But I saw a triathlon shop right in the middle of the city. I was like, wow, that's cool. So I guess it's pretty popular there. Obviously, if they have a triathlon shop in the middle of town. And that actually prompted me. I recently reconnected with my Dominican Republic buddy that he teaches swimming down in the Dominican Republic. And we had talked last year about taking Try Swim Coach and translating it all into Spanish. And we started to do a little bit of it, and then we just kind of fell off. But we are going to start doing that again. So we're going to have Try Swim Coach Espanol in 2015. So that's coming.
Sweet.
So, not that anyone that listens to this podcast doesn't know English, but there's a big market down there in Latin America as far as triathlon goes. And so we'd like to get into that.
Yeah, I've been reading up on how Ironman, because they think they've reached the saturation point for America. Yeah. That they're expanding. That's where they're going to expand their races. Is they're going to South America, and that's Panama. This 70.3 Panama was the South American Championships, 70.3 Championships, the regional championships. So they're expanding into South. That's their go-to place to expand. And Challenge is trying to get into it too, because they just opened a race in Brazil. So they're eyeing South America as the next point to start opening up races, which for Northern Hemisphere people who hate the winter, that it's something to keep motivated during the winter. Those November, Decembers where you don't want to get to the pool. If you have a race in February or early March in South America, I mean, it's a perfect place. Not only does it give you motivation in December, January, and February, but it also it's a nice place to go on vacation. I'm sure you'll be able to get the family on board if you can say, well, honey, right now it's 85 degrees in Panama. We could be going there soon. So it would be a nice place for a destination race. Totally.
Yeah, it was 85 degrees there every day, and it's awesome. It's like for some reason I thought Panama City would be really hot, but it's not. It's just perfect. It's like the perfect temperature. It's really warm, but it's not like blazing hot. So I would recommend it. But I was up in the mountains, and then I was over on one of the islands off the Caribbean side, and it just rained nonstop. So it can be really ugly with the rain there because it's right in the tropics. So, but yeah, Brazil would be great. Then we'll have to do Portuguese versions. Try Swim Coach. So, but or maybe that'll be 2016. I don't know.
And Brazilian Speedos or Try Swim Coach Brazilian Speedos.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we can't do lava pants. We have to do Speedos. Yeah. So cool. Well, we were going to talk about today, Chris, you wrote an article on the top 15 triathlon race tips for 2015. And there's some really awesome stuff in there. And we're not going to go over all 15 of them on the podcast, but I wanted to highlight 5, and then we'll put the URL in for the blog post in this post for this podcast. So if you go to tryswimcoach.com/blog, you'll see this post in there.
Yeah. And I titled it the Year of the Fish, if you want to look it up on Google.
Actually, I changed the title, because I wanted to get more SEO juice so the search engines could find it. But yeah, it was a clever title. Give you credit.
But I guess, start right into the first 5 tips of 15 to make 2015 your best swimming year yet. And just the first one is be consistent. And this is something you and I have both hammered home consistently, is being consistent in the water. Being more consistent without being dedicated to swimming 3 to 4 days a week and swimming that every week, making sure that you're getting to the pool. I think that's the number one thing that you can do to improve your swim. If you want to become a better swimmer, you have to swim more and more consistently.
Yeah, absolutely. We have in our Team 500, that's our monthly group that we have, that we are coaching people more on a smaller level. So that we have about 50 people, I think, in the group right now. And every month we give them a challenge, and then we give them a couple of focuses. And one of the things that we've done both months is, you get credit for showing up to the pool 3 days a week, just for showing up. So that's the important thing, is if you just say, okay, I've got 10 minutes to get in the pool. If you can just do that only, that's so much better than skipping the day and trying to make it up later. So
yeah, and getting in the habit now will pay off in the summer. And if you lay the foundation for the habit and the practice now, then when you're less motivated come summer, then you already have the habit instated, and it will be easier to follow.
Yep. Everything becomes easier when you create a habit. That's for sure.
So number 2 is time trialing. It's doing time trials consistently. I like it every 3 to 4 weeks. So schedule it on your rest week, because volume goes down during your rest week, so intensity needs to go up a little bit. So doing a 500 or 1,000 meter time trial will not only give you motivation to beat your last time and be more consistent so that you can beat your last time, but it lets you know where you are right now as a swimmer, and be able to, if you can measure it, then if you can track it, you can improve it. And figuring out where you are right now, and then setting a goal for where you want to be in 3 to 4 months. That's the only way to be able to track that, is through time trialing and figuring out, as you progress, and if you are doing the right things to make your time go down. If you figure out that your time trials not going down after, 2 or 3 time trials, then you need to reevaluate your plan. So it gives you direction once you know where you are right now.
Yeah, it's always good to have that kind of feedback. And how do you do, so if you do 1,000 meters, let's say, as your time trial, how do you swim that? That's how do you pace it?
So first off, you have to be consistent in where you do it. So if you go, you have to make sure that you're doing it in the same pool. And I like to do it, the same time of day, just to keep things consistent. But how I pace it is I warm up for about 400 yards, 400 meters, depending what pool you're doing it at. And then I do about, 5 builds, or 5 to 6 25 yard or meter length builds to, get my arms moving. And then pacing wise, I start off conservatively and then settle into a nice groove. And then once I hit 500, I, assess how I'm feeling and either continue on with that pace or pick it up to the next notch.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I remember when I was back in college, we used to have, at the very beginning of every season, we had to do a 3,000 time trial. So boring. Just 3,000 yards is just, and, that was probably most of our workout, but yeah.
Another benefit of setting a time trial is you can use it to set your paces for the rest of your practices. So if you like to go off a more time or interval or traditional interval, so that you leave on the 130 instead of saying, getting 20 seconds rest. So let's say you want to do hundreds on 130, being able to do the time trial at the beginning will allow you to calculate your paces for your intervals throughout the workouts until your next time trial. Yeah, that's a good point. So the third one is swim analysis. And so there's a lot of ways you can do this. So videotaping your stroke with a GoPro or an iPhone with a waterproof case is a great way to go. You can just get someone, a friend or whoever to just videotape you on the side of the pool. And then you can actually, if you're a member, if you're a TriSwim Pro member with us, you can actually upload it and we'll take a look at it and give you feedback. We also have, if you go to our site at, I'm giving a lot of URLs today. I'll include all these in the show notes, but it's app.triswimcoach.com, app.triswimcoach.com. That's where we have our app and you can take a look at that. And then there's these waterproofing for mobile phones. You can get that. It's really cheap. I don't know how much it costs, but we have a little link there to that company. It's called Life Proof.
And so if you want to do that, if you want to waterproof your iPhone or your Android or whatever, you can just get one of these life-proof cases, and then someone can go under in the water and just videotape you. And it's really easy, and it actually takes really good video. Like I've got a lot of iPhone videos, and I'm amazed at how clear they are.
Yeah, iPhone and GoPro are like kind of the gold standard for like doing your own videotaping camera technology.
Yeah.
And I've got a GoPro. I absolutely love it. And if you go to DC Rainmaker's site, he has a review of how you can set up either your iPhone or your GoPro and like what angles you should, get to have a good swim analysis. And the point of getting your swim analysis now is not to beat yourself up and say, oh, I have such a bad form. It's really to give you direction of what drills you should be doing in the coming weeks. Right. It's to say, all right, my arm is crossing over, so I should be doing the catch-up drill. Or, I'm not having a high elbow catch. And I actually did my swim analysis over Christmas break, and I realized I was crossing over just slightly as I was pulling. And that allowed me to change my stroke. So it gives you direction in what you should be doing in your practices.
Yeah, and it can be tough sometimes to look at yourself doing anything, and especially with swimming, because there's so many things that could go wrong. But like I watched this guy present on how he does videos. A swim coach in Orange County, he was presenting on how he does his swim analysis, and they go to this just minute, tiny little level that you'd never notice. Most people would never notice anything, but like they were doing Michael Phelps and just showing like he came up just a fraction of a second too early on his butterfly stroke, and just changing that, like that's like 1/100th of a second, and that means him winning the race. That's or setting the world record.
That was him beating the Swede back in Beijing.
Exactly.
Just that one little thing. And obviously, on the amateur level, we don't have to be so nitpicky, but it does help you significantly because it gives you a direction. You are no longer swimming blind. You know exactly what you need to do.
Yeah, exactly. And so the way you improve those things is by number 4, which is drill, baby, drill.
Yep. And that's, to quote Sarah Palin, drills are how you become more efficient. Yes, speed is important, but being able to drill and focusing on the drills based off what you realized in your swim analysis will make you a better swimmer. It's not the most glamorous of practices, but it does help you, perfect your form. And drills don't necessarily have to be easy. And this is what I keep on telling swimmers is drills don't necessarily have to be easy. You can do drills at a higher intensity, and sometimes you should be doing drills at a higher intensity. For example, the fist drill. The fist drill is where you make your fist and you swim normally, but instead of having your hands pointed, you make fists with your hands. And what that does is it teaches you to use your whole entire forearm. And my coach is having me do sprints with this so that I use my forearm and I feel that I need to go faster, I have to use more of my forearm instead of extending my hand more.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I probably shouldn't say anything about drills. They're fun. That's all I'm going to say. I've said way too much about drills ever since I started doing this stuff. But yeah, they're fun, and do them as much as you can. And if you're just starting out, if you've not really had much swimming background and you're just starting out, I would say just do drills only for a while, even a couple weeks, just totally hammer away at just drills. Don't even swim at all, because you'll start to sort of, the stuff that you're doing wrong, it will sort of imprint into your stroke, and then you'll have to fix it later. So you might as well start doing drills and then get everything, the way it needs to be. And then you can kind of tweak it from there instead of starting off on the wrong foot. So
especially if you find yourself, breathless after 25 or after one length or two lengths, start with drills. You will become more efficient as a swimmer if you start with your drills.
Exactly. So number 5 is embrace your weakness.
And this is tied right back into 4 and 3, is that you have to, it's tougher, and this can apply to anything, you don't want to acknowledge your weakness, whether you're crossing over or whether your form is off. You don't want to acknowledge that. But by embracing your weakness, you can turn it into a strength. And, if you are a sprinter and you don't have much endurance, but you can knock out 100 very quickly, then maybe you need to, instead of doing sprints all the time, maybe you need to incorporate some endurance work. And if you are an endurance person and you can hold one pace all day, but when it comes to 100, your 100 pace isn't much different from your 200 pace or your 500 pace, that can be a weakness. You want more gears in your toolbox. So embracing your weakness and saying, I need to work on my endurance to balance out my speed. That's something to focus on.
Yeah, and would you say, just bringing it out a little bit broader into triathlon in general, like should somebody that, if swimming is their weakest of the three, should they focus on swimming?
Oh, especially if you're, if it's too cold to ride or run outside, swimming right now is a perfect opportunity for you to embrace that weakness of swimming and be able to, instead of, just trying to struggle through the first part of the race and then catch up and see place-wise what you do outside the water, instead of, having that as, accepting that, try to improve that and say, I want to be back of the front pack, or I want to be in the middle of the front pack so that I can be competitive once I come out of the water, or I can have more of an enjoyable race once I finish the swim. So putting in the yardage now, if you're a weak swimmer but a strong biker and a runner, putting in the mileage now will make your summer training better, because you will be losing less energy on the swim and therefore have more energy on the bike and run.
There you go. That's a good place to wrap it up. Those are our 5 triathlon race tips for 2015. If you want to read all 15 of them, just go to triswimcoach.com/blog and you'll see this one up there. It's like right now it's the second one down, but it's called 15 triathlon race tips for 2015. And so, yeah, that's about it. So, Chris, I was going to ask you, what do you have coming up?
I've got my first race is until April, so I've got some time to prepare. It's the Tempe Tri Marquee, which is just an international one. But then I've got St. George 70.3 and Challenge Knoxville 70.3. So loaded up the first half of the year, and we'll make a decision after those 3 races to see where to go to make the second half of the year.
Good deal. Good deal. Cool. Well, that was a great show. Again, Chris, thanks for coming on. And we'll do it again in a few weeks. And everyone out there listening, thanks for listening to our show. We will have more coming at you. If you want to subscribe to us, it's just triswimlessons.com. And again, it's Kevin and Chris at TriSwim Coach. We will talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to another episode covering swimming and triathlon mastery. To get your free online swim clinic, just go to triswimlessons.com. Give us your name and email, and we'll have session number 1 off to you right away. Begin your process of befriending the swim and laughing at the water now.